Assalamu
Alaikum everyone, you guys are listening to Madiha
and Paria
on Salam Radio, Barakah Talks 106.2 FM. Please call or text 01733 602 133 or comment on the live Facebook, Twitter or YouTube.
Alright, Assalamu alaikum guys. So today we're going to be speaking about Quran and why we should read it in Ramadan and how beneficial it is to us. And in the second half we'll be speaking about mental blockages and how to overcome them, inshallah.
I think we're going to be talking about the Quran more in depth, the importance of the Quran and how we can make spare time for it, especially when we're all in, our studies, year 13, year 11, everyone's doing their GCSEs and A-levels, and hopefully we can talk about how we can make spare time for it, aiming to at least finish the whole Quran this Ramadan, especially working around our studies. So this is going to be the first half of the show. Please send in your questions so then we can have an interactive discussion, and hopefully it will be beneficial to you guys as well.
Right, so starting off, Bismillah, we asked a couple of you what your favourite surah was to begin with, so we can base what we're speaking about around that. And most of you said Surah Rahman, and when we asked why, you said because it's a really beautiful surah that speaks about Allah's mercy. And to be honest, that's my favourite surah as well. What's your favourite surah?
Surah Rahman is actually my favourite surah as well. Especially, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. So which of the favours of your Lord will you deny?
Yeah, and it's repeated how many times?
It's repeated many times throughout the surah. I don't know how many times it's been repeated, but after each ayah there'll be like فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, and there'll be like, what I love about it the most, it talks about the favours of Jannah, and what kind of things we'll be rewarded with. And that surah always makes me emotional every time I listen to it.
Yeah, trust me, especially when I read it. Someone else said their favourite surah was Surah Taha, because it speaks about Prophet Musa alayhi salam's story, and they said that they found it really inspiring.
MashaAllah. So for the second half, we'll be discussing a little bit more in depth from last week's show. I feel like that needed to be spoken about a little bit more. There were so many more things that we wanted to talk about. What kind of barriers affect us from having a positive mindset in Ramadan and how we can overcome them, and what is the importance of overcoming them. There's so many distractions in Ramadan, and I feel like this is why we've decided to do it for the second half today, so you guys can listen to us based on the importance of the Quran as well as mindset.
Yeah, so for the first half we're going to start speaking about the basics, because not most of us are well educated in this area, and that's what we're here to help with. So many people don't really know why we read the Quran in Ramadan, and they're like, why does everyone aim to read the Quran and finish it in Ramadan? And it's because the first few verses of the Quran were revealed in Ramadan. Surah Alaq, the first 5 ayahs of the surah was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Cave Hira.
It's not just become like a source of guide. It wasn't just revealed in the month of Ramadan. It's also become like such a big source of guidance for us. So we can imagine the month of Ramadan as like a jackpot to all Muslims, as Allah has promised that we're rewarded from the good deeds that we've done this Ramadan. Even if we do charity work, we'll be rewarded immensely. So much that it gives us Muslims an utterly clean state and erases our sins and forgives us. Allah forgives us, and we'll have a fresh start to start over everything.
So the Quran, I feel like it's such a big mercy to us. Like Allah speaks about this in the Quran a lot. He speaks about how He allowed this book to come to us as a source from His mercy, so that we can be guided, and so that just shows how much of His mercy He's basically flood out from Him during this holy month, which is why we should work on to being closer to our deen and being more appreciative to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And I feel like people don't really make the time to read the Quran. Things are focused so much on like what we're making for iftar tonight, what we're eating for iftar, arranging plans with your friends, going out, especially school studies, even work, and I feel like it's really important that you make that time to recite the Quran, and I feel like everyone should have a goal as well. One of the goals with the Masjid Khadija fiqh class is that we're all going to memorize Surah Sajda by the end of this Ramadan, inshallah. And I feel like everyone should have those goals, at least memorize one surah, even if it's like such a short surah. Everyone can have their favorite surahs, you know. It could be Surah Al-Nash, Surah Al-Falaq, you know.
So to me, the Quran is like a wake up to reality call to me. Like I said last week when we were talking about something that really misguides me, and I said watching movies or something because it takes me away from reality. And for example, when I'm scrolling on TikTok, and I'll come across a video from the Quran, and then I'll just be like, okay, I'm back to reality now. Then that's where I'm able to actually get out of the habit of getting off TikTok, and then I'm able to actually carry on with doing my daily routine. But we've seen like many photographical metaphors where they speak about, where they show like a Quran pumping out the dunya from a person, and I think that's very like, I think that really describes the Quran well, because that's how beneficial the Quran is to us.
I was listening to like a really short reminder the other day. It was on TikTok. I was just scrolling down. I don't really know who the sheikh is. There's so many different reminders on TikTok, you know. And the sheikh was saying that, you know, if you read the Quran for 1 hour straight without any distraction, you know, you're not talking to anyone, you're not checking your phone, no one's pinging you a message, you're not quickly checking, even if it's for like 30 seconds. As long as you read the Quran straight and you're just focusing on the Quran for 1 hour straight, when you finish it, he said your whole mindset will be changed. You'll feel so much more peace and ease within yourself, you know. And I tried that, and I swear to Allah, it was amazing, that feeling.
And you know, Quran is it's not just reading. Like sometimes, even if you don't understand the Quran, sometimes you'll just feel it, and like you'll read an ayah and you'll just start crying for no reason or something like that.
Yeah.
I know, it happens so much.
I feel like, you know what the sad thing is, a lot of us, we read the Quran, but we don't actually know the meaning of the Quran and the importance of it. And when I'm memorizing my surahs, after every time I finish memorizing my surah, I always tend to go over the translation. I might not remember the words, the meaning word by word, but overall, if somebody asked me, you know, what is the surah about, for example, Surah Ar-Rahman, like today, you know, I can tell you, you know, I could try to tell you about some surahs at least, and the meaning of them, and overall what this surah is about. And I feel like when you know the meaning of the surah, it makes such a big difference when you read it. And I feel like even when you don't know the meaning, you know, it's almost as if like it eases your heart, and you just feel like this amazing feeling. It just makes you cry when you read. But I feel like that only happens when I read alone, you know, where there's no distractions, my siblings aren't coming in and irritating me and distracting me.
I feel like a lot of us need to create that relationship with Allah, and like, you know, for things like doing our good deeds alone or things like that, because it's like you're hiding something from other people and you're like creating a bond with only Allah, where you're not like showing other people what you're doing. You're making it so that your intention is only to please Allah and not anyone else. So we asked a couple of you what Quran means to you in Ramadan, and some of you said Quran brings you closer to your deen, which is something we can all relate to. And someone also said it's a good and easy thing to add into your routine, which is beneficial. And I agree to that, because I know a lot of people want to like replace some of their old habits with something new, and reading the Quran is really, even if you struggle with it, you get more deeds for it, obviously, and you're actually trying, and Allah knows you're trying. So and someone else also said understanding the Quran, because it helps them understand their deen. What would you say about understanding the Quran? Do you think it's important?
Can you read that again?
Understanding the Quran helps them understand their deen.
I feel like that's quite deep, you know, when you're reading the Quran and you have that translation. I feel like the Quran is the best way to, you know, have that time alone and to connect with Allah. So I feel like that's a true comment to make.
Yeah, it makes you understand what you're actually reading, and I think it's really important to do so, because the Quran is like the fundamental standard of Islam, and it's literally the book of your deen, and you should understand. If you don't understand the Quran, you won't understand how you should be as a Muslim.
Allah blesses the one who recites the Quran. There's actually a reward for every word that is uttered out of the mouth of a believer, and this is so amazing. You know how every single word that we utter when we read the Quran, it is, we get reward for it. I heard this hadith that really inspired me. It's about the recitation of the Quran during the month of Ramadan. Whoever draws near to Allah during Ramadan with a single characteristic from the characteristics of goodness, he is like whoever performs an obligatory act during it. He is like who performs obligate act 70 times at other times. Sahih ibn Khuzaymah. Sorry. So 70 times the reward per letter of the Quran. That's amazing.
That is per letter. So imagine if you're reading surahs or pages, guys. So
when you read through this, even when you're reading from that book, you literally go through so many amazing hadiths that are so beneficial. And it's even more amazing how I just couldn't get over how every single word that we utter, we get 70 times more reward for it. And you know what's even more amazing? Those who struggle to read the Quran get double the reward. This is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not judge on the quality of the reciter. Rather, his criteria is different from the criteria of other humans. Allah looks at effort of the believer and rewards him. So, you can get some people that really want to read the Quran. And, they want to try their best, even if they're stuttering or they're getting the words wrong and the tajweed isn't that good. Allah knows that they're trying to put that effort in. Whereas sometimes you can get people that sound so smooth and beautiful, but they go in and their intentions might be, I'm just going to get this done. I already know how to read the Quran. Whereas someone who doesn't know how to read it properly will go with the intention of, right, today, that's it. I'm going to try read Surah Al-Rahman with, amazing tajweed. And I'm going to try read it as smoothly as I can. And inshallah I'll better it from, for example, I read it last week and it wasn't that good. I feel like it's all about the intention.
I feel like a lot of people who don't really know how to read the Quran properly might fear trying to actually read it, because I know, like, fearing something that you haven't actually done before, it can be a thing, and I just want you all to know that fear comes from shaitan. Like, you shouldn't fear something like that, but if you try, just know, like, Allah is on your side, and Allah's not someone to, like, be angry at you over not being able to read the Quran. So if you're trying, just know that Allah's watching you and he's proud of you.
One of the hadiths that I read through today about struggle reading the Quran, it kind of links to what you're saying actually. Prophet Muhammad said about the one who struggles, verily the one who recites the Quran beautifully, smoothly and precisely, he will be in the company of noble and obedient angels. And for the one who recites with difficulty, stammering or stumbling through its verses, then he will have twice the reward. Sahih al-Bukhari. That literally talks about
it. That is
so amazing.
Yeah.
Recitation of the Quran, is really important and blessed in Ramadan, also because it was brought down upon Prophet Muhammad this month. Jibril would visit the Prophet Muhammad every night in Ramadan and study the word of Allah with him on the night of Laylatul Qadr. That's
why Laylatul Qadr is on the last 10 days, because it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad on one of those days.
These 10 days, we're in the middle of Ramadan right now, and these 10 days are actually the 10 days of forgiveness. So we should actually be using these 10 days as, praying towards Allah and being grateful for everything that he gives us. And the Quran was revealed with the utmost pleasure and concentration, as those were the virtuous nights, ones that would give the highest number of blessings. This automatically makes the month of Ramadan a blessed one. So we should all take advantage of this and, try to have a fresh start and carry on. Even after the month of Ramadan, a lot of people, how we spoke about in the session as a prep session, how some people think that, there's no music in Ramadan, we're going to start praying in Ramadan. But then when Ramadan goes, they don't have that iman that they had, throughout. But some people actually, they'll start and then they'll still have that mindset and that iman in them even after Ramadan, not just within.
But the question would be, how would you maintain your iman? I would say by keeping around good company, listening to things that boost your iman, reading the Quran obviously, and things like lectures and stuff. Lectures are like a quick boost to your iman, and if you stay around that area and things like studying your deen, that actually helps you a lot. And if you make that a habit, you'll be fine, inshallah.
I think it's also about, like, that time where you make a habit you know, when you're always in that habit, the same habit all the time. You know, it's like getting up for work at 6 a.m. in the morning all the time. On the weekend, you might get up at 6 a.m. in the morning just because you're so used to getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning 7 days a week, 5 days a week for school or work. And I feel like when you make that habit and that routine in Ramadan, you know, I'm going to get up to pray the Tahajjud, maybe 3 times a week. Some people might have a goal to do it 3 times a week, 2 times a week. I'm going to do charity work on a Friday. And then you're constantly getting into that habit. You know, I'm going to download this app. You know, even me, I downloaded, you know, my Salah. I wanted to start praying it on time, you know. So I downloaded this app, Muslim Pro. I'm sure a lot of people have this already. But when the azan comes on, I'm just like, go pray, literally.
Mashallah.
So I feel like it's about that habit, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good example of a habit to get used to.
And I think, you know what, reading the Quran during Ramadan, it brings out like a sense of responsibility towards Allah, which we do not realize at other times. And we delve deeper into the words of Allah when we realize that the Quran is, you know, a constant reminder that we must act according to the commandments of Allah.
For me, I would say getting close to the Quran and actually understanding it, because for me, I have an English translation of the Quran, and I like to take some of my days to at least like finish one surah to actually understand and getting like, you know, being a Muslim is actually like knowing Allah is there. And how can you know that like someone is there without actually knowing about them? Or you know, Allah, we can't see Allah, so how can we actually put into our minds that Allah is actually there? And I do this by reading the English translation of the Quran and learning more about Allah, because you need to, as a Muslim, we all need to know who Allah is. We need to know about our Lord, because that's basically a standard of being a Muslim. And how can you refrain without fear? How can you like fear Allah without knowing Allah, you know? That's why when you read the stories of the Quran, it speaks about, like, for example, the people of Lut, how Allah punished them, you know, things like that. So that was something that really got me close to my deen and actually like fearing Allah. It was actually understanding some of the Islamic past and Allah and who Allah really is.
And it's not just about the negative things, it's also about the beauty of the Quran. You know, when you listen to Surah Ar-Rahman, and it talks about, you know, what kind of things that will be rewarded with in Jannah. For example, what kind of foods will be having the rivers of milk, honey, those kind of things, you know, it beautifies Islam, and you want to become more, you know, closer to Allah and have that connection with Him. And a lot of people tend to, you know, educate people with Islam by giving them the negative, you know, teachings of it. Oh, if you don't do this, you're going to go to Jahannam. If you don't pray like this, you're going to go to Jahannam. You know, when you actually when you educate someone with Islam in a beautiful way, it will want them to become more closer to Allah.
I feel like there's 2 types of people. There's people who actually like to be like told things like, oh, if you do that, you'll go hell.
100%.
And then there's people who it puts off, and that's actually a real thing. So you know, when there's people like saying like, oh, if you don't dress this way, you'll be like this, and it actually can put some Muslim females off, and I've seen that happen quite a lot. So if you're someone who's trying to advise someone else, try not to be too harsh and try to be more like connected to them and like empathetic. That's the word. So that they don't be put off the deen.
100%. I feel like when you do it with other people as well, you know, like even making Quran groups, and having a goal to, you know, finish the Quran or read this Quran with the intention for reading someone that has passed on, even as a sadaqah jariyah to somebody else. You know, when you do it together with other people, it encourages you to read more.
Yeah, that's just like having good company around yourself.
And you must act accordingly to the commandments of Allah. Like, you know, when you read the Quran, it kind of changes the way you think after you finish reading it. So, you know how I mentioned earlier on, when you finish the Quran, when you finish reading it after an hour, your whole mindset will kind of change. You'll feel that peace. And, you know, it will change the way you speak as well. Like, do not sin, backbite, tell lies, especially during this month. As we seek to God our fasts, and what better way to do that than to spend your fast in the remembrance of Allah.
So Madiha, what was something from the Quran that got you close to your deen? How did the Quran actually help you on your Islamic journey?
So, you know, like, especially my hifz, I think when you read your hifz, I feel like it's more important for me to sort of memorize the meaning of some of the surahs. And, you know, like, throughout learning my religion, nobody's actually told me how beautiful Islam is, the way, you know, the Quran described it. And I feel like that made me have this feeling inside of me, like, you know, wow, like, it was so deep. And, you know, there's one ayah, I haven't memorized that ayah, but it described, I memorized the English translation. It was describing how, you know, one of the rewards that we will get in Jannah is 2 million times the reward of what a man would get. And I think it was like,
Really?
it's so amazing that Allah cannot describe it in words.
A
and
man
I
as
just thought,
in like humans?
yeah.
Oh.
And I was
How do you think your what's it called, your hifz like benefited you? Like, apart from just learning the Quran off by heart, how else did you like benefit from it?
Hifz can change the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act. And I feel like when you do hifz, you know, it's such a big reward. You know, Allah's actually blessing you. He's picked you to memorize the Quran. He's picked you to memorize that surah. And I feel like it creates a responsibility, especially the way I act in public and the way other people act in public. People will look up to you when you're doing hifz. I'm not hafiz yet. And, you know, I don't really tell people about my hifz. I prefer to keep it quiet, but I think when it's beneficial for people to know, then I tell people, unless somebody asks me most of the time. And I feel like it does create this responsibility. The hard thing about it is, you know, even if you do something small, some people will be like, they'll crack a joke and they'll say, oh, you're a hafiz sab, you know, you can't be acting like that, you can't be joking around like this. And it genuinely puts a lot of pressure on me as well.
That's not something you should be saying to other people. I don't know why people have said that to you.
But in general, it is such a big responsibility. And, you know, one of the biggest rewards that your parents will get is, you know, they'll be crying on the Day of Judgment for hifz. And I want to do that for my parents,
Really?
especially for the person that sponsored me during my hifz. You know, I had 2 Quran academies, and I moved from one Quran academy to another. It's because my attendance was really bad to begin with. I was quite unwell at that time, so my attendance was really bad. So then I moved to another Quran academy. And one thing I felt so sad about, in the first Quran academy, I was actually being sponsored by a couple. And when I didn't get to memorize the Holy Quran through that academy, that meant that couple would stop sponsoring me. And I felt like I had a responsibility to sort of, even though I didn't know who they were, you know, I felt like I needed to memorize the Quran for them as well. I felt like this was a duty and a responsibility for me. You know, they've been paying this every month for me to just memorize these ayahs, this surah, and they're getting so much reward for it. So, you know, I've made that intention that obviously I'm going to memorize the Quran for myself, for Allah, for myself, for my parents, but especially that couple who, you know, sponsored me to memorize 15 juz and before I moved to the other Quran academy.
You know, when you first got into doing your hifz, how was it like? Did it feel really hard? Did you feel pressured? I know you just said you did, but
to begin with, it was really hard. I'm not going to lie to you. I was only 11. Well, 11 is actually a really good age because your brain is just like a sponge, you know. You soak all of the words in memorization quite easily. And you know, my mum, before, it was quite easy to begin with because my mum had already taught me Juz Amma from home. So you know how I said that every morning we would have the hour where we would just focus on Quran and Islamic studies, the seerah, hadith, etc. It was quite easy for me then, and especially having understanding hifz teachers, you know, we wouldn't move on to another surah without, you know, memorizing the surah before properly. And I feel like in Ramadan, everyone should have that goal to memorize even one surah that they can read throughout their prayers, you know, especially Taraweeh. You know, some girls don't like to go Taraweeh to the masjid, they prefer to do it at home. And I feel like when you're memorizing these little surahs, it's really beneficial to read as well in your prayer?
So I would say that reading the Quran, I wouldn't say like just like learning the surah, but I'd say learning the meaning would be really important as well. Is that something that is part of your goals?
100%. I feel like even when you're reading the Quran during Ramadan, it's important to go over one of the Quran books that I actually wanted to mention. We'll do that in the second half of the show, inshallah, because we have a couple of seconds left. So please make sure you guys stay tuned. Please send in some questions, because we really want to have like an interactive discussion with you guys to answer your questions, and to be able to understand what your experience is during this Ramadan.
We'll be mentioning some of your answers next show. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
You could be driving, you might be cooking, you could even be working. But whatever you're doing, you're also listening to Salam Radio. And if you're in business, your potential new customers could be listening too. So talk to them and let them know what you have to offer. Advertising on Salam Radio is affordable and effective. And by doing so, you're also supporting this valuable and important voice within the community. Right now, there are special Ramadan advertising offers available too. Call 07866 319 679 or find Salam Radio online and across social media.
Running your own business can be challenging, so why not let Vaid Rahman and Tax Assist Accountants, established since 2003, manage all your accounting needs. Get the service your business deserves. Changing accountants is easier than you might think. There are no tax implications and you can switch at any time. Let our team guide you through the process. Tax Assist Accountants. Call us on 01733 892 299.
More Cars is so much more than a dealership. It is a warm, friendly, family-owned business set in the heart of Peterborough, located in our modern, bespoke, heated showroom with full dealership facilities. We source only the finest vehicles from many of the most prestigious marques. We specialise in low-mileage vehicles, which predominantly come with one owner and full dealer service history. Finance and warranty options available with bespoke packages. Contact us on Peterborough 555 330. Or visit our website morecarslimited.com.
Peterborough. Who said good quality fried and grilled chicken has to be expensive? At Sam's, we take pride in every piece of chicken that leaves our kitchen. Just one bite of our chicken or burgers is all it takes to realise we are the best. Visit us at our brand new place at 333 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PF. Or order a delivery through Just Eat, Uber or Deliveroo. Sam's, the home of great tasting chicken for over 30 years.
Are you a savvy shopper searching for the best food deals? Look no further. Adams Cash and Carry can help you save big. We're not just a food wholesaler for takeaways and restaurants. We also welcome household customers at our warehouse in Westwood, Peterborough. Visit our website and enjoy wholesale prices on everything from drinks to flour, rice to burgers and much more. To shop, go online and collect in store. Visit adamscashandcarry.co.uk today to start your savings spree.
Awarded the UK's Best Muslim Charity of the Year, Muslim Global Relief, bringing hope to life for 20 years in over 40 countries around the world. Every water pump you helped to install, every needy person you helped to feed, every orphan child that you sent to school has a powerful impact on people's lives. Let us continue to make change. Make a 100% Zakat donation today. Visit muslimglobalrelief.org.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to Barakah Talks with Madiha.
And Paria.
So for the second half of this show, we'll be discussing overcoming barriers that prevent us from having a positive mindset during Ramadan. However, we're still going to go a little bit more in depth of the importance of the Quran and the recitation of it during Ramadan. Please send in your questions, everyone, so we can have an interactive discussion. And we also want to benefit you guys, answer your questions if you're having any struggles in terms of connecting with the Quran and making that spare time for yourself.
So what was it you wanted to speak about from the last session?
So reading the Quran during Ramadan brings out, as we said, a sense of responsibility towards Allah, which we do not realize at other times. We're reading His words that He has revealed, and we delve even deeper into the words of Allah. We realize that the Quran is like this constant reminder. As we mentioned in the first half of the session, the translation is so important because sometimes it discusses the tasks that Allah wants us to do throughout Ramadan. The stories, even the words of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in hadith books that we should all go over, just as a constant reminder. I must act accordingly to the commandments of Allah. For example, not sinning, backbiting. And I think it's so easy to backbite. Even saying something so small about somebody can change a lot of things. And it can be such a, distraction for you. Especially when we're all fasting.
So we asked a couple of you what your biggest aims this Ramadan were, and Alina Rasul said to finish the Quran, to overcome my waswasa, OCD, and to strengthen my iman, inshallah.
I feel like the younger generation also have their goals are a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Ramadan's really exciting for them, especially when they're around their elderly. They have that inspiration to want to do more in Ramadan, such as charity work, participate in events, where they'll do arts and crafts, learning about their deen more, even if it's for 1 hour before iftar. And
when they look up to their elders and they try to
the Quran acts as a reminder while you are completely pure and devoid of evil. One of these hadiths that I really wanted to mention today, it kind of reminds me of how, we all have a duty to read the Quran and the importance of it. The Quran acts as a reminder. Allah says, a book which we have revealed to you in order that its verses may be pondered upon, so that the people of understanding may be reminded. That is what Allah hopes for mankind to achieve, a constant reminder of their faith, of the oneness of Allah on the Day of Judgment. All of this is mentioned in the Quran.
That is so true.
I know. And it kind of, it's, how we mentioned, constantly having that reminder while we read the Quran. This hadith, this ayah in the Quran is, can impact the way we speak, the way we talk, even the way we read the Quran.
So going on to mental blockages now, what are some things that you face that you would say is something that stops you from being a better version of yourself?
I think, not being grateful for what I have is one of the main impacts. Not being a grateful person in gratitude. When you're grateful to Allah, Allah will bless you with more. Even in Ramadan, I have these big goals, but I don't take them step by step. It'll be like Friday. I'll make the intention to give £5 sadaqah. Saturday, I'm going to bake for the neighbours. Sunday, I'm going to go to the mosque and do charity work. Even if you have these goals, you get so much reward for them, but taking them step by step. And I noticed that sometimes, of course in Ramadan, I want to do fun things as well. Itikaf in the masjid, although I won't be doing it for maybe 10 days, probably 3 days or 2 days max. I have such big goals, but they're not just beneficial towards my religion, but also because, I find them fun. It makes me feel that Ramadan vibe. But when I expect too much and then I don't get that, it kind of, it makes me feel so disappointed. And I feel like that's a kind of reminder to be grateful for every small thing that you have, even if it means going to your family for an iftar or something.
I heard something about being grateful, and I think it's Mufti Menk who said something. He was like, imagine if you woke up and everything you were grateful for were the things you had. How many things would you have? How many blessings would you have? And that's really deep, because not all of us are grateful for what we have. So I think that's something that we should actually acknowledge more and be more grateful for. But there are many mental blockages we're going to be speaking about today. And I think the main important one we should speak about is fixing relationships.
100%.
A girl wrote to us and they said, I'm struggling with sorting bonds with the people around me, and I feel a lot of hatred, unnecessary hatred between us and conflict, and she didn't really know how to overcome them. What would we say to that?
I feel like, with that can be such it can impact us, by not wanting to go to Taraweeh, not doing anything in Ramadan. It can emotionally affect her, making her feel, low self-esteem, not confident, especially when, some girls will have these petty little, it can happen with boys as well. I don't want to go Taraweeh tonight because there's this person that I don't like there. There's this person that doesn't like me. I don't want to go to that charity event or that iftar. But those events are supposed to be events where, regardless of what problems you have, they bring everyone in the Muslim Ummah together. And you're supposed to be going for Allah and yourself. You should put all of these problems aside. And as well, Ramadan is the time for forgiveness. And I feel like we should be using this month as a reminder to just, put all these problems aside and just focus on yourself and your deen.
And when it comes to conflict, if you're that person who's actually like making someone feel that low, or making them feel like they're unable to attend Tarawih or that charity event, just know that their dua, because you're what's that word? Because you're actually like making them feel that way, their du'as are accepted really easily. So even if it's their parents that's saying like, Ya Allah, whoever's making my daughter feel unable to go to Tarawih, like,
you're preventing them from going to, focus on their
you're making
deen.
them feel oppressed. That's the word. The du'as of the oppressed are accepted straight away. So imagine if they're making like du'as like, oh, Ya Allah, you punish them for what they've done. Imagine seeing the person who you've oppressed on the day of judgment saying these things to Allah. How would you feel? That's a very scary thing. So if you're the oppressor, or if you're being oppressed, don't feel alone. You got make sure you're talking to Allah and asking Allah for help before you ask anyone else, and try to unite with other Muslims or anything, because 99% of the time they'll be there to help you. And try to be the bigger person. Being the bigger person at that age is really looked down upon.
I feel like, even when you're getting into friendship problems, or any difficulty in terms of, family problems, or, anything that's preventing you from focusing on your deen, the excuse you can have for yourself that is valid is just me and Allah. So I'll forgive you just because, this is a month of forgiveness, and because I should, and I want to be the better person, and I want to please Allah. So aside from, why should I be the person to forgive you when you're the one that did this to me first? Put all of those little things aside and focus on your deen, because your deen should be put before everything. And I think that kind of links to how we should have good company as well.
Yeah, because that just shows, as soon as you break off with a friend and you get into problems, that just shows who that person really is.
Yeah, and I feel like when you have that one friend, even some specific friends, I have my friends outside of the masjid, but I also have masjid friends that I specifically know, just because when I go to the masjid, I sit down, and you're Piri is my masjid friend. We met at a 3-day i'tikaf last year, and now we've remained friends, and we met each other through something so beautiful. We had the good intentions when we met each other, staying up for Qiyamul Layl, Laylatul Qadr,
all of that. It was
is
just
Qiyamul
like,
Layl and Laylatul Qadr the same thing?
Yeah,
it is the same thing, isn't it? Just two different names. Even Tahajjud, making food together as well for Tarawih, after Tarawih, drinking tea. Those, when you meet these people through doing something so good and having those intentions, they're actually the friends that stay close to you. And it starts off with the beginning, and the intentions that you have in the beginning is the most important.
and it's the little things that me and Madiha do that remind remind each other of Allah.
And I
So
feel
we
like
could literally just be sitting down eating, and we'll just say something that reminds each other of Allah, and it's so beautiful.
I feel like when we're together, we always have, we're always doing something beneficial in terms of, our religion.
Or we're learning
that's the way to
something
put
new
it.
that we didn't know.
Yeah, like our Salam Radio. When we meet each other, we're never doing something. Of course, it's good to socialize. We take this as a time to catch up as well.
Yeah.
And to share each other's opinions and different views on things. When I'm sitting down with you on Salam Radio, I'm also hearing your opinion on different things, and you're hearing mine. So it's a way for us to get to know each other more, and also benefit.
And we're not
other
just
people.
speaking to our audience, we're speaking to each other as well. So we're learning new things through each other.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things you speak about as well that I don't really know, and it really benefits me as well.
And I feel like that's what you need to have in Ramadan. Like, this is something that we're doing good in Ramadan, and we encourage others, alhamdulillah, and we want to encourage other people to do this as well. So, having that time to make spare time with your friend. Okay, so I'll see you, but what we're going to do that also includes our religion. It could be that, I'll meet you on Saturday and we'll spend time together, and we'll have iftar together, but we're also going to bake this cake or however many cakes for the neighborhood, or we'll go drop it off to a local charity. Doing little things with your friends that benefit your religion and benefit yourself. They are your true friends, and I feel like that is why it's so important to have good company in Ramadan.
Everyone say Allahumma barik.
Allahumma barik. So we've spoken about friendship problems. Is there anything else you want to have any input on?
Something that I actually struggle with as a mental blockage this Ramadan, I'd still say derealization. Like, I literally, sometimes I'll be so lost in this dunya, subhanallah, and it affects me so much. So something I've actually done to try to stop that was this is still going back to having good friends. I messaged one of my friends the other day. I was like, let's go visit the graveyard more often so we can, because I feel like I forget death as a thing sometimes, and it affects my deen so much. So I said to my friend, let's go visit the graveyard more often so we can remember death. And visiting the graveyard is like a sense of like...
Especially meeting your loved ones as well and praying for them in Ramadan. That's another thing that I feel like a lot of people forget is, you're not just praying for yourself or,
Yes.
the people within your household. You're also praying for the people that you have loved and have moved on and passed away. And I feel like it's so important. I don't really get to go to, my loved ones' graves much. But when you do, and when you even when you sit there and read Surah Al-Fatiha, when you leave, you just have this feeling inside of your heart, like, a good blessing. Like, there's blessings inside.
Also like a wake-up call.
A wake-up call, 100%.
And not just praying for the people you love. There's people out there who don't have anyone to pray for them. So, I think that there's a dua out there. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's a dua for those who don't have people to make dua for them. And I think that's really, like, beautiful and just shows what Islam is like, We're all in this together. We're not out here doing this without each other.
MashaAllah. Please comment, everyone. We hope that everyone can comment on the live. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
No, not Instagram. We're live on YouTube as well.
Please comment so that we can, we can understand your opinions.
We can see your comments, guys.
We can see all your comments. Ishba said, so true. MashaAllah continues to listen to us. And inshallah, we hope this benefits you. You guys can text 07 on 07411 191062. Or you can just comment on the live. There's no problem with that. I feel like one of the factors that we haven't spoke about is low self-esteem, not thinking that you're good enough, as you feel Allah might not forgive you. But these 10 days are the 10 days of forgiveness. So it's important that we manage time so that we can, focus on Allah. And do you ever feel like sometimes you're not good enough?
I always do. Like, sometimes I'm just like, to be honest, I've been trying to learn the 99 names of Allah. I think I mentioned this last session. And sometimes I just think to myself, like, am I good enough to be knowing all these 99 names of Allah? Because, like, when I am struggling with it, I just think, like, maybe I'm not good enough to have these, like, beautiful 99 names of Allah in my heart. So I make dua and I'm like, Ya Allah, if my heart's not good enough to or clean enough to have the 99 names of your 99 names, then make it pure enough, and things like that. And I think making dua is such a big solution to having low self-esteem. And it's not in just things like your deen, it can be in like studies or like things like trying to better yourself.
100%.
Yeah, what about you?
I feel like when I speak to other people that are also going through the same journey, I remember I mentioned a couple of sessions before, you know, I met this girl at the masjid and I didn't even know her. She was a lot older than me. And I always wanted to see her again. It felt like
If you're listening to this, come see Medina again, please.
I always wanted to see her again. I didn't know who she was. She was older than me. And we just had that instant connection. And I was trying to become closer to my deen. You know, I was 16 at that time in year 11. You know, I was trying to make that spare time where I'd focus on my religion. For example, in my holidays, you know, I'd make the most of going to Jummah. And it was funny because this Jummah, it was funny because it was the holidays and nobody had turned up. It was just a couple of aunties and myself and the girl that I met. And we just clicked straight away. And she spoke to me about how she has started wearing the hijab and how she started becoming closer to her deen. And you know what made me, it was a wake-up call for me because I realized that she's 22. And
you were 16 at the time.
And I was 16 at that time. I'm not going to mention the name or anything like that, but I thought, you know what, she's trying to get closer to her deen regardless of her age, you know. She's realized at the age of 22 that she needs to, you know, better herself for Allah. She's finished her uni, she's come to Peterborough, and she's tried to make the most of coming to community events. And I'm 16, and I felt like we both had that goal regardless of our age. You know, we weren't talking about worldly matters or anything like that. It was Islam, and there isn't an age gap with that, you know. You can talk about the same thing with the same goal, because it's the right intention. It's all the same intention. And she said to me, why don't we go for the coffee morning and listen to the Islamic reminder? And I feel like when you talk to, because I spoke to her a lot about my struggles with Islam and how, you know, the influence, especially being around people that don't necessarily remind you of Allah. You know, you're with people that are constantly talking about worldly matters. Everything's about this, that, arguments with this person, arguments with that person. And I felt like with her, it was just, you know, I felt like I was seeing someone where I just express every single problem that I have in terms of my religion and how I want to better myself.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. And, you know, I really wanted to exchange numbers with her, but at that time I didn't have a phone. And I never saw her again. May Allah bring us back to seeing each other again.
Going back to the topic of low self-esteem, I feel like a lot of people go through low self-esteem because, like, you know, when people say we're all in the same test, but don't put the same answers to your test because we're all going through different tests. I feel like that's something that actually causes low self-esteem, because you look at a girl and you're like, wow, she's fully like modest, she's not wearing makeup, she's doing all this good akhlaq, and you're thinking like, why am I not like this? And you're pushing yourself and you feel like unable to do things like that. You know, we've all got different tests. We all have our own way of doing things. Don't try to copy the next person.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, one thing that reminds me of that is sometimes I'll go to these Islamic events and I'll see these girls that are a lot more religious compared to me, or, you know, better in themselves a lot more faster than I am. And it puts a lot of pressure on me to begin with, because it makes me feel like low self-esteem and insecure about my religion. Like, should I be doing this now, or should I be taking my time on this? And I feel like one of the biggest factors inside a friendship that you should always value is constantly reminding each other what you're good at. So, you know, you like,
yes,
if you've done something that is really good, I should remind you, you know, what you did today was a good thing. May Allah reward you for it. And then you say the same thing to me, and then it makes us both feel like we're doing good in terms of our religion. We're trying to be closer to Allah, and no one's better than another person.
Yeah, and it pushes each other to actually strive and do more of that as well. Mashallah.
100%.
Next thing that we've actually got is a lot of people said what they struggled with was actually stopping their old habits, like staying away from their old habits and getting onto their new ones. So things like trying to stop going into social gatherings, like, and trying to actually connect with Allah more than rather than connecting with people.
I feel like that links to managing time as well. Like a lot of people think that, especially in Ramadan, of course you should be spending time, you should share your iftar with your friends. But I feel like it's really important to spend your iftar with your family as well. I mean, most people are not managing their time very well because they're going out to eat in restaurants, and of course there's nothing wrong with that, but most people are doing this, you know, quite a lot in Ramadan, and they're not really appreciating that family time. You know, with your family you pray salah together, you're making dua together before you break your fast. It depends on the environment, to be
A lot
honest.
of other people, they said that they're struggling with focusing on anything but their hunger, or waking up for suhoor, or trying to balance things with their education. I just want to say and I think it's an ayah of the Quran that speaks about this, and it speaks about actual fasting, and it says, Allah intends for you ease and does not want to make things difficult for you in this holy month, so that you can complete your fasts of the month, and so that you can glorify Allah for guiding you, so that you can be grateful. And I think like that, I didn't even know that ayah until I started researching into this, and that has such a big meaning to it. Like, Allah's doing this so we can be more closer to Allah. He's not doing this to make us feel any like hardship. He's doing it so that we can glorify Allah for guiding us, so He can bless us with more blessings. So that was something some of the people said.
I think it includes laziness as well.
Yeah, but going back to the what's it called, to the actually prioritizing our time, tell us a bit about your scheduling.
One thing that I've tried doing, it's not really worked out very well, but I have tried, is trying to focus on my deen. Now it's the holidays, I'm going to try to stay up quite late after Taraweeh, so I can plan my revision, do my revision, but then also pray my night prayer. And then I can wake up late the next morning because it's the holidays.
Yeah.
But I also need to focus on praying on time, and practicing my deen as well as my school revision. So one of the points in my calendar, sorry, not my calendar, my revision calendar, is staying up quite late to focus on my deen, and then in the day I can have my revision, and then obviously Taraweeh, and it's like a domino effect. It's Taraweeh, then you're going home and you're doing half an hour zikr, and then you're reading your Quran. I need to catch up on quite a lot of Quran, at least 2 juz a day.
I like that you're having that standard on yourself. But would you say to people who have really high standards but can't really pursue them?
I think you should take your time, because then sometimes, as we mentioned earlier on, when you can't really pursue something, it can make you very upset. But as long as you had that intention, you know, Allah will bless you for it and you'll be rewarded for it. But not preparing a schedule, even if you don't really meet every single point on that schedule, you know, it can put you under pressure because you're not feeling organized. You know, as long as you have that structure and you're trying to fulfill some of those points, that's the main thing.
I feel like having a schedule or like a timetable, I personally don't have one, and I wouldn't recommend not having one, to be honest, because I just be like, right, I'm gonna do this, then I just switch it up, and I don't really get anything done at the end of the day. But having a schedule is like you've actually got something to go with, and you actually like try to like force yourself into doing it a lot more than you would with not having one. Like, I'm that person who would say like, right, I'll just do it along the way. Like, for example, I've got an assignment, I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it after this, and then I'll push it to all the way at the end.
That's what I do all the time. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm too tired to do this now. I'll do it tomorrow morning. I'll wake up at 6 in the morning and do it. That's not going to happen because I went to bed at 12.
Exactly.
Wake up at 12 the next day, which is
I'll
really
end
not
up
good.
just like shoving myself with coffee and trying to stay up for it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not really a healthy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are trying to stay up and like get your things done during the night, then I would recommend having a lot of coffee. It did help me.
You know what? Coffee doesn't help me. It does the opposite. It makes me fall asleep.
Really?
I really don't know why people recommend coffee, because
Have a cold coffee then, because I feel like it's the warmth that makes you tired.
It makes me feel heavy and bloated, and then I just go to sleep. I'm so sleepy.
Are you an energy drink person then?
No. Well, You know what? I'm not actually allowed energy drinks, but
Really?
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to have to summarize because we're running out of time.
So inshallah, next week, we hope that you guys can ask more questions, so we can, we can have that discussion where we're
And that connection.
yeah, and we're answering your questions. We'll have more to talk about in more depth. We hope that you guys have benefited from today's session. If we've said anything that has offended anyone, we apologize for that.
And we're not on here to say that we're better than any of you. We're all the same, and we're here to help each other, inshallah. And if you were to communicate with us, we'd like to get to know you more, so that we know our audience.
Please comment on our Instagram. You can even follow our Instagram, Barakah Talks. And before the session starts, we'll be putting some questions out for you to answer. And hopefully we can add them into the lesson, into the show.
We'll be back again next Sunday. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.